Hello guys, welcome to a new episode of the e-commerce lab by 𝐂𝐎𝐶. My name is Vincenzo Toscano and I am the CEO of 𝐂𝐎𝐶. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Laura McCaul and she's the co-founder of Sponsor Profit, which is an Amazon ads management agency. Today's topic will be around what are the 5 things you should consider when launching your first Amazon PPC campaigns. Now, without any further delay, let me introduce you, Laura. How are you doing today?
Hi Vincenzo, I'm well, thank you. I'm well considering it's a miserable and wet Monday afternoon here in Worcester, so I'm not doing too bad. Might have something to do with my freshly made cup of coffee, so give me a bit of a boost.
Yes, I think for us that we live in UK, whenever we see a bit of sunshine, everybody runs out to the parks to just get a bit of light. But usually, yeah, the weather is not as nice as other places. But anyway, thank you for joining. And of course, before we get started, I just want you to just briefly introduce yourself, just to talk about how you got started into Amazon, what you do, and then we can, of course, touch the topic. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. And yeah, my name's Laura McCaul. I'm one of the co-founders of Sponsor Profit. We're a UK-based Amazon advertising agency. And we've been doing this a little over 3.5 years now, but myself and my 2 business partners, Tim Peatman and Daryl Patterson, we're all former Amazon sellers ourselves. So we met at a live event in Vegas many years ago. I think it was 2015, and became firm friends. And we sort of moved in the same sort of seller circles. We helped each other out with our own brands, and then we decided to sort of come together and go from sellers to service provider. And Sponsor Profit was started, like I say, around 3.5 years ago. My own sort of entry into Amazon and the e-commerce space was completely by accident and not by design. I had recently relocated from the US, where I was working in landscape design. And when I came back to the UK, I didn't feel like working outside for the reasons we mentioned right at the start, because of the lousy weather. And as it happened at the time, a good friend of mine was selling very successfully on Amazon. So I was kind of seeing her posts on Facebook about what she was doing. I thought that looked interesting, got in contact with her. And yeah, thought, okay, well, I've got an opportunity to essentially right all the wrongs of working with frustrating or poorly made gardening products, because I'd been doing that in my former career. So I saw that as an opportunity to launch a gardening and outdoors brand and sell physical products on Amazon. So that's how I came to sell on Amazon. And then, as I said, I moved from selling to service provider a few years after that.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think a lot of people jump into Amazon by mistake. Even myself, I used to be an engineer. Then we see this kind of laptop lifestyle, and then once we discover everything that we can do with it, is not going back for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Great. So yeah, let's now jump into today's topic. Of course, I know you have extensive experience around Amazon PPC. That's what you guys do. And I wanted to, of course, touch the topic, which is around the things that we should consider before launching the PPC campaigns. So I don't know if you want maybe start just giving a brief introduction around that topic, and then we go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, certainly a topic I know that you can speak to with authority as well. And funny enough, before we formed Sponsor Profit, I had an Amazon copywriting business, and so I created product listings and EBC, enhanced brand content. And so the reason I mention that is really one of the first, or certainly one of the 5 things that you should have in place before you start running paid traffic to your product listings, is to have a compelling and persuasive SEO optimized product listing. As a PPC agency, it never fails to amaze me at how many times when we talk to sellers, oftentimes the problem isn't PPC, it's the product listing.
Yes.
or it's the product offer. So maybe it's a low converting product listing. Maybe it's a great product, but pricing wise, it's a bit off. Maybe it's not well reviewed. Maybe the star ratings are lower than it should be, and I know we'll come on to that as one of the 5 points. But yeah, sort of the general offer. How compelling and persuasive is it? The one thing that shoppers on Amazon are not short of is choice. And
Yes.
so, how does your product listing sort of connect and resonate with your target customer and engage them? First off in the ad to win the click. Grab their attention, get them to click. And then how do you turn that click into a conversion and into a sale? And the way to do that is to have an offer that essentially is speaking to that customer at that point in time. That customer is saying, yes, this is exactly what I need. This is going to solve this problem. This is going to make my life better in whatever way. So that's really key. And so and it's a big part of having that product listing convert highly, sort of the organic conversion, the unit session percentage is really having that compelling and persuasive product listing. And as counterintuitive as it might seem to many sellers, one of the ways you'll do that is by being different, by knowing who you're selling to, and to sort of really connect and have that high converting product listing.
That's great. Yeah, for sure. I think the misconception that we have is that Amazon PPC, if you put thousands and thousands of dollars, then that's going to be the solution for your business. But we all know that's not the case. I think conversion is always the number one thing we need to fix first, which now brings me to my first question regarding that, which is what is usually is the thing that you advise your clients to start fixing or testing in terms of to help improve the conversions? What are those changes you usually advise your clients? Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a couple, and one we're going to come on to is really important. Is really important as I think it's point number 4. So I'll leave that for later on in the discussion.
Sure.
But I think, I think first the key thing is to only be changing one thing at a time. So if we kind of look at the DNA or the anatomy of a product listing, right? We've got some fairly sort of basic kind of components that we can look at. So obviously we've got the title, we've got the bullet points, we've got the product description, and we've got enhanced brand content. So in terms of where we always sort of suggest people start. I mean, obviously the title is super important, but the title is really as much, if not more, about being SEO optimized and having the the relevant keywords in it. But I think in order to kind of grab attention and have people click on the ad, because if you think about ads, right, ads are like mini product listings, aren't they? Well, certainly the sponsored product ads are. You're going to get that little box, and you're going to get a little taster of the title. You're going to have the main image, and you're going to see the pricing and the reviews and that kind of thing. So I think ensuring that your most relevant keywords are at the front of your title, and also the main benefit, or perhaps you're calling out who that product is for. I know sellers are very reticent to change their title, certainly once their listing gets a little bit established. So I wouldn't sort of suggest switching it on a overly regular basis. But I certainly think from an SEO point of view, if you make some changes there, I think you'll probably see those changes a little faster than elsewhere in the product listing. So I think for SEO purposes, the title, but I think in terms of really kind of setting out your stall and sort of converting the listing, I think it's got to be your product images, really. I think that's the easiest thing to change, because you can keep your images separate from your copy, because copy isn't easy. I get that, but quality images that really showcase the product, really kind of demonstrate and give the and communicate the look and feel of the product. I think probably the product images are the lowest hanging fruit, because they're, you can
Yes.
switch them around, you can try a few different things, and then you can kind of hold off, wait, see how the conversion improves. And then, as I said, for some SEO juice, the title would be next. And then I think really the benefits, because, you have an opportunity there to call out, your target customer, call out their main sort of pain points that your product is going to solve, or that kind of thing. And I think, the more invested you are in your product, and I don't mean financially, or I don't mean sort of emotionally, but the more that that you're building a brand that you're passionate about, that you are, building a brand with products that, still excite you, and that you have a very clear picture in your head who those products are for and why. I think the benefits section, or the bullet points, the feature section, is where you can really have a lot of fun. So I think, I think there's a few different places. Then I think EBC really kind of gives you an opportunity to have some fun as well, again with images, and really let the images kind of do the talking and the communicating. As they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So, those visual aspects of your listings, I think, are probably the easiest to switch out, but probably require a bit more of an investment to get them done properly. So basically, I've said the entire product listing, basically. Images number one. Images are easy, I think, to change and test.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, totally agree with you. I mean, I can't remember the number of times I have seen people just using their manufacturer images, or images just copied from Alibaba, and it's like, that's not gonna work. And as soon as we start using professional images on some of these clients, or people that have we have seen those mistakes, sales usually improve significantly. Because I mean, the reality is that most people, I bet even yourself, when you go on Amazon, most people don't read the bullet points or the description. I mean, most people shop with the eyes. I mean, if you have very good images and video, especially video nowadays, also that you showcase the product being used and lifestyle, I think that's a big thing. Of course, bullet points is important at a certain level, specifically if the product is some technical or you want to showcase specific functionalities. But at the end of the day, if you have the best listing, as you mentioned, in terms of explaining everything perfect, but your images are not nice, I think if another person is doing a better job with the image, they're gonna steal the sale from you, 100%.
Yeah, I think you may have a point. I think there are definitely two types of humans when it comes to sort of reading and sort of digesting information. And there's those with, I think they call it lizard brain, who kind of skim. And then there are those that kind of read. Now, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I fall into the latter category. I'm
that's good.
I kind of am a bit picky and look at that, but and maybe it's just a bit of a sort of a pet peeve of mine as well. When you see really badly written product listings, and I'm like,
you lose confidence.
That could be so much better. But I think you're right with the images. I mean, people do shop with their eyes. It is a lot easier, and the better the images are. So to your point, the better the images are, the more of the heavy lifting they will do for converting that sale, right? Because if you, like you say, if you're almost if you're answering all the questions that a shopper or potential customer will have, like, or how big is it? Well, if you've got an image where whatever your product is, it's on a desk, so you kind of get a sense of scale, or maybe you have an infographic with the measurements. But certainly, I think those lifestyle images where you can see the product either in use, or you can see the product in the environment in which it's used. Obviously, that kind of gives you a sense, because then you can kind of picture yourself using that product too. So I think you're right. I think another benefit of images, certainly over copy from a testing perspective, is services like PickFu, and I'm not paid to I'm not an affiliate, so I'm not promoting them for any financial gain.
We use it.
But that's just such a great way to kind of get very almost instant feedback, and kind of A/B sort of split test your images to get a sense of what's resonating. So I think for sure they would be the low-hanging fruit of the low-hanging fruit.
Great, good. So now another question. Usually I bet you get this question a lot when it comes to launching PPC campaigns, is reviews. So people is afraid of launch PPC campaigns without reviews.
Mm.
So what do you usually advise, and what do you usually do on these circumstances? Yeah.
I mean, look, I mean, we would always prefer to have reviews, and I think as well, if you read the documentation from Amazon, if you've done any of the sort of Amazon advertising certification, I mean, their sort of minimum benchmark is they say, don't turn on ads until you have at least 15 reviews and a 3.5 star rating. Now, the 3.5 star rating, we prefer not to launch products with anything less than a 4-star rating, because we have found, once you go under 4, that conversion really sort of takes a hit. Now, it does depend. There are, some product categories, generally have lower ratings than others, just like some categories have sort of lower conversions than others, like if we talk about apparel, for example, and things like that. So so the 3.5 is a bit too low in our personal opinion. We'd always strive for 4, and again, 15 is on the lower side, but I think having those double digits reviews is better than none, and social proof is everything on Amazon. I mean, I do get that it places more established brands, established products at an advantage. I was reading a post of a peer of mine that sort of works in the PPC management space. I was reading a post of his this morning on LinkedIn, and he wrote this really well, where he was saying that it is difficult for newer sellers and newer brands, because they are fighting against that sort of I can't remember exactly what he said, but almost that it's not a level playing field when you've got age data and you've got sales history and you've got products that have been around a while and are well reviewed. It's tough to compete. And I think that's how, some people can kind of maybe go down a bit of a black hat path, or using tactics or services that aren't, necessarily compliant to kind of gain that advantage. The challenge with that is that, almost always, that catches up with them at some point. So I get that it is difficult. And, how do you get reviews? You get reviews by making sales. Well, how do you make sales if you don't have reviews? So, that kind of
it's a bit harder,
vicious circle has always been around. There's still some ways to do that. But I think what it's still important to do is having, you can still have a robust and consistent, review generation strategy. You can still, ask for reviews. You just can't, quote unquote, ethically sort of, well, non-ethically bribe people for reviews. But it is really, really important. But reviews matter. But, saying that, the one way to counter reviews, if you have a low account versus the more established sellers, is obviously through pricing. Now, again, that's not me saying that it needs to be a race to the bottom and people need to compete on price. But, as when you're launching products, let alone when you're launching PPC campaigns, you need to pull on some levers to go, okay, well, how am I going to make a sale, or how am I going to win a click? How do I persuade a customer to take a punt on my product, which is brand new and has very few reviews? I mean, what's your sense? Because, obviously as a full service agency, this will be part and parcel of what you do. We work with partners to help on the review side of things. But, what's your general sort of approach and strategy and thought on all of that?
Yeah, for us, this is the same. Reviews we usually always try to get at least 10, 15, because whenever we try to launch PPC campaigns without that, we find that we spend a lot of budget without any results, and sometimes that data is not even valid for the future of those campaigns, because it's not a realistic scenario, right? So usually what we try to do is get the initial reviews. Personally, what we use with our clients is Amazon Vine. It's been working fine with us. So of course you need to have your brand raised with Amazon, but Vine is very good. I mean, it has the negative side, of course, Vine, because Vine is very critic. So if your product somehow has something bad, they're gonna catch up with you, and you're gonna end up also having negative reviews. But of course, we always make sure that before using the buying program, we validate that the product is good. And whenever we use it, I mean, you can get up to 30 reviews. And then as soon as we start getting 10, 15 reviews, we launch the PPC campaigns very aggressively.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And you know, and again, I think what that speaks to, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but for those of us that, you know, were selling sort of back in the almost the Wild West days of Amazon, you know, quality is really, really important. And so I think it's easy to cut corners, but ultimately, you know, and certainly we see this when it comes to, you know, the PPC side of things, is the more you invest in a quality product, obviously, and you need to be, you know, you need to be profitable, you need to have a margin to kind of allow yourself, you know, wiggle room to invest in ads. But, you know, all of the certainly the brands that we work with on the managed services side of the business, they all have quality products. I mean, it's just, and it sounds like, well, yeah, of course, but it's so important. They're quality products. They're well reviewed. They're, you know, they're in a cohesive brand. So, you know, when we were in brand ads and stuff like that, you know, we can cross sell and it makes sense. I mean, you know, I don't mean to digress, but, you know, but to come back to that quality piece, it's so key. So I think that, you know, the more you're able to invest up front in a quality product, in quality product photos, you know, a professional copywriter if you're not comfortable, or you know, whatever it is, all of this, you will get a return on your investment. Okay, it might not be as easy to measure as you know, maybe your PPC metrics, which is ultimately then what everyone tends to focus on. It's like, oh, well, my PPC is really expensive, or my ACOS is really high, or but you know, if you think about it, you know, what will always get you your best bang for your advertising buck is to be investing in all those other things. And I think if you are playing the long game, if you are serious about building a sustainable business on Amazon, you need to be taking all these things into consideration. You know, I truly believe, you know, the days of, you know, start selling on Amazon for $500 and, you know, retire on the beach next month. You know, it just isn't true. It doesn't work like that. And so, you know, all these things are really important. And as I said, all of these things will contribute to the cost effectiveness and the performance of your ads. The challenge for us as PPC agencies is we just get measured on the stuff in the campaigns and not all the other stuff that has an impact. But, you know, it is what it is. It's our cross to bear.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and there are so many things that play a big role into scaling your Amazon business. So it's the PPC side, conversion side, reviews. So I think that's why it's so useful to touch all these points, because I think sometimes people think that it's just one thing, but when you dig further, there are so many moving parts, which is why this must be seen as a big and a serious business. It's not a side business as it used to be. Now, I mean, you should have a strategy in place and make sure you follow them to successfully launch a product. Which
and sorry, I was just going to say as well, Vincenzo, and I think, you know, what's also, you know, really important to consider and for people to consider is how all these different elements of your FBA business are all interconnected. You know, it isn't a case of, well, you know, that's my PPC and that's my SEO and that's my inventory management and they're my reviews. And, you know, they're all different components within your FBA business, but they all influence or interact with one another. And, you know, again, for us, having that sort of focus just on PPC, you know, our job is to optimize campaigns, right? And to optimize your spend to get the best results possible. However, you need to be optimizing all the other parts of your business, right? You need to be always optimizing your organic SEO. You need to be optimizing your inventory management and staying on top of that. You need to be, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, this, you know, optimization isn't exclusive to PPC or to your product listing. Optimization is essentially about, you know, improving and getting the most out of your business. And I think it applies to all of the other aspects of your FBA business. So I think, the more you can kind of have a more holistic view of that and kind of understand, how it impacts one another or the other parts of your business. I think the better your business will be for it.
Yes, for sure. I mean, it's not just that. I think now, which is going to be the next topic we're going to be touching, is I feel sometimes people get the best images, as we already discussed, the best SEO, everything, but then they get the pricing wrong, right? So I think you could have the best optimization, you could have the best images, the best PPC campaign, but if the price is not there, it's not there. It's not going to work, which is my next question is how you help your clients identify when they are wrong in the price, and if that's the case, what usually you do you usually launch a new product with a much lower price and then you slowly increase it, or what is usually your strategy with that?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, we kind of advise on pricing, and especially when it comes to product launches, that's when pricing is really
Big.
key. So,
Yeah.
We've been launching products just with PPC for a number of years, and so understanding the costs involved, that's sort of generally where our conversation starts, because what we want to look for is we want to get an understanding of the client's COGS or their other costs, so that we can kind of see, okay, so what do we have for PPC, and then what budget do we have available for PPC, how much can we spend to acquire a customer, and then of course we'll compare that with, we'll do some search around, average cost per clicks, in that category or so forth, or looking at certain keywords and going, okay, are we in, have we got a match? Are we in the right ballpark? Is one like much higher or lower than the other? So that's where it tends to start. Now, of course, aside from that, we'll always again have a conversation, and these are experienced sellers where the priority or the goal on that first shipment, on that launch, isn't to make a profit. So again, we'll, that cost of acquisition, will be a little bit more generous, will be a bit higher, because we're like, well, look, we want to get visibility, we want to be seen, we want to get traction. How comfortable are you in terms of taking a hit? And then obviously what we'll look at is applying coupons, our Amazon coupons aggressively as well, to kind of really sort of make that price point compelling, because as we mentioned earlier with reviews, certainly pricing is a direct lever you can pull to go, okay, in order to kind of compensate for the lack of reviews, we're going to have to do something on the price, and what does that look like? But yeah, we'll always start with the client's numbers, the seller's numbers, the cost of goods, and how and so forth, and then we'll kind of work out a budget from there, and then kind of get a sense of the tolerance for risk and for taking a hit on launch, and then obviously look to start then putting that pricing gradually up as we start to get traction and more reviews. But it's always pricing conversations are always interesting conversations with clients. But again, it would be remiss of me, not to say, we're well aware that, the average cost per clicks have increased hugely over the past 12, 15, 18 months. Cost of goods have, the supply chain has been interrupted. So, it's difficult having, a comfortable level of profitability in a product can be difficult, again, especially for newer sellers who, maybe don't have a history with that manufacturer or that provider, have, a little bit of sort of cash behind them, whatever it is, that have that sort of negotiating power to kind of get the best possible COGS. It's been difficult, I think, regardless actually of level of experience. But again, it's, because these things for us are key when it comes to PPC. If you have very little profitability in your product,
it's difficult.
It's really, really difficult to go after. There'll be certain keywords that you just won't be able to go after, and that'll be it. I mean, sometimes, I say pricing is a difficult question or rather a difficult conversation to have, but at the same time, we work with data, don't we? So sometimes the numbers just do all the talking. It's like, look, regardless of what I think, you know, the
That's the
numbers
price.
say that, you know, this is what it is. So, you know, think about it. Let's see what we can work out. But, you know, you know, in one respect, they're hard conversations to have. In other respects, they're not, because the numbers are the numbers. And so, you know, we just go by the data, and the client can make the ultimate, you know, decision. But yeah, it's par for the core, I think.
That's great. Good. So I think, yeah, I mean, now at this stage, for example, for somebody that's looking at this episode, let's say they have the images right, they have the SEO right, they have the pricing right. I think one next important step, which I think you're going to be touching now, is the indexation of this listing and the keywords on the system, because we have seen people having all this right, but they try to run PPC campaigns, but they get no impressions, no click, it doesn't perform, and usually it's due to indexation. So what do you usually advise on these scenarios? Yeah.
Well, I mean, certainly, you know, for our clients, it's the first thing we do when we onboard them.
That's good.
You know, as we go in there and we're just like,
That's
okay, how, you know, and it still surprises us how many, you know, how
a lot
many
of people,
you know, sellers and brands are, you know, not indexed for their main keywords, or so yeah. And you know, actually going back to your question around, you know, images, I think is the first thing to look at, and then actually your back end search terms again. You know, just to, I think I talked about the title, but actually I think I would actually say in hindsight, actually, you know, making sure you're indexed for your main keywords is really key, because again, that'll make a huge difference to your visibility organically, and it'll make a huge difference again to how well your ads perform and convert. So and you know, always understanding that, you know, your keywords change over time, and you know, you want to make sure that you're always looking at what are your top performers, you know, over a 30-day period, and make sure you're indexing for those, because at the end of the day, again, it's easier for us because, you know, we're not, you know, emotionally or financially invested in the product, but it's easier for us to look at the data, and for us, you know, your best keywords, as I like to say, the keywords that pay the rent. It doesn't matter if they're not the main keyword, that, you know, and you'll have this, right? You know, sellers can get quite emotionally attached to keywords as well, but I really want to rank, you know, page 1, position 1 organic for this keyword, but, you know, but it's too expensive, or you don't convert on it, or this is, you know, this is something we need to work towards over a longer time. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're just like, look, your best keywords are the keywords that pay the rent, right? And we can go after other ones, but sometimes I think sometimes, you know, sellers can get, as we say, you know, married to, but I you know, I have to rank for this keyword, and we're like, why?
Put all the volume, then burn it, and that's it.
But so and regularly checking your back end search terms as well, making sure you're indexed, because sometimes as well you can be indexed and then you're not. So you know, things like that are you know, are fairly simple. Maybe, you know, a little laborious in terms of a task, but you know, they make a big difference.
That's
Indexation
great.
makes a big difference.
Good. So now we have also seen the other scenario, which is people do all the steps and they do wonderful, and they launch the product, PPC perfect, and then they go out of stock because they didn't have enough inventory. So I'm sure you have seen that a lot of times. So so
all the time.
What do you usually do?
Not sometimes, all the time.
So I don't know if you can touch on this. I mean, what is usually the negative side of this happening, and how do you usually counterattack these scenarios?
So look, I think again, it's easy for me to, you know, joke about it, but it's, you know, it's not, you know, a joking matter for many sellers. It's a huge, you know, it's a huge frustration, and inventory management has always been difficult. It is difficult. You know, I think
especially
PPC
now
is complicated. Especially now. So I think, you know, PPC is complicated, but inventory management is very difficult, always has been. And as you say, it's even harder now. And obviously it's, you know, as well as trying to find that balance of getting your lead times right. And again, when the supply chain has been so disrupted and broken as it has been over the past 12, 18 months, it's very unpredictable. Obviously, it's a big cash suck on your business as well. So sometimes having the cash to invest in the inventory in ahead of time to kind of avoid being stocked out, it's not easy. But certainly, if we just talk about what does it mean for PPC if you run out of stock. I mean, as you and I know, all your hard work in terms of your organic ranking, in terms of optimization. So let's say you've optimized your bids, your cost per clicks are coming down, your organic keyword rankings are going up. As soon as you go out of stock, all that good work starts to become undone. And I always liken it to visas, right? So I've worked all over the world, and in particular in Australia, which is very dear to my heart, and I'm actually a citizen. But sort of as I was going through the permanent residency and the citizenship process, it's all based on the number of days you're in country. So you kind of tick, 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 tick. You're working those days out, and then the minute you go out of the country, it goes back, then it goes around again. And I always, whenever I always use that analogy for, when you run out of stock, because it's like, you've optimized, and you've got here, and then, and of course, depending on how long you're out of stock, is how long, maybe your organic rankings, your cost per clicks, your take a hit, and then you've got to kind of re-optimize to get back in stock. So I mean, some of the ways to counter that, I mean, obviously having as robust a supply chain or inventory or replenishment strategy is helpful. I mean, I think there's never been a better time to be a 3PL. I mean, I think 3PLs are just going to be, I mean, I just think they're going to be part and parcel of how people do business. We do advise, and we do have our clients have sort of, if they have the capability, we'll also sort of have the create an FBM product listing for them, so we can kind of make a switch if as a backup, if they have the capability. But the bottom line is it really comes down to cash, right? And being able to replenish that stock ahead of time. So being able to invest in that replenishment, before you've maybe, sold through
in the revenue.
Your current stock. So it's a real challenge, but again, I remember when I was selling, and you start to run low, and you go, oh, that's okay, I can just some stock,
and you keep waiting, and then boom.
And you can kind of, I think they used to call it just in time inventory replenishment, right? And that's not easy to do now, because of lead times and also because of cost. So again, it's thinking it through. It's like starting with the end in mind is like, okay, before I even start investing, and certainly before I start investing in my product, and start investing in ads, how much inventory can I have at any one time? Because like you say, you don't want to stock out. At the same time, you also it's a balancing act, because you also don't want to have stock that isn't going to move, right? Because then you get the storage fees as well. So it's very, very dicey. Again, I think that's where 3PLs will come in. But yeah, it is frustrating to do your job and to do it well, and then you get a panicked email from a client saying, "Need to dial down the ads. I'm about to run out of stock." Or like, like on the one hand, it's like, well, we're doing our job right, but on the other hand, it's it kind of it sucks. But it's I think, and look, I do think that there are some software and service providers in the inventory management space now that I think are going to really help sellers do better jobs. So I mean, checking those out, I think, would be really important as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the future of having a healthy Amazon business is going to be inventory management, because with the whole shipping issues worldwide and manufacturing and all that, I think whoever managed to perfect that side of the business, we're going to have huge advantage in pricing and everything. So yeah, for sure. Good tip.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you know, we've sort of seen that when, you know, if your top two competitors or whatever sell
Mm.
out,
Yeah, it's your
you know,
moment.
what that can mean for you as
Yeah.
well, you know. So taking advantage of that as well. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, it's an inventory management business now, first and foremost. Yeah, that's what this business is about. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So well, Laura, I think we covered very good points today. I appreciate your time. I mean, your knowledge is very valuable. I appreciate it. And
Thank
now,
you.
before we leave, I would like to ask you if you can share with our audience where people can find you, how they can get in touch with you and your agency, if they're looking to receive the service. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Absolutely. So yeah, you can find us at www.sponsoredprofit.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, so Laura McCaul, and yeah, so either through the website or LinkedIn, you can connect with me personally. And yeah, if you need help scaling your ads, you know, have a conversation. We'll see how we can help.
Well, Laura, thanks you once again, and we keep in touch. Okay. See you in the next one. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.